I'm your host, Marty Smith, and I'm joined by Mr. History, Eric Perrott.
What's up, Marty? I'm just laying on the beach.
I see that. You're having a good time. And we're here to bring you the latest headlines and updates pertinent to all servicemen and women. So take your seats, get informed, and have a laugh as the Swearing In Podcast presents Service Headline News.
All right. Good to be back.
It is good to be back. We're missing our man in the closet because he had his head up his ass and didn't realize that he wasn't going to be done with whatever he's doing before we had time to do this podcast. So
we still love you, Jake. Still love you.
We do, but Jake, suck it. So you left me alone here with Eric.
Laying on the beach. Yeah.
Laying on the beach. Anyway, let's kick this off. Eric, what do you got for Dayton history?
Dude, I have something that you are going to like because you know why? It's U.S. military. U.S.
Well, that's the charge. So
that's why I thought you'd like it.
You know, and
I think I might have got it right this time.
And watching football was tough for me this weekend because my Colorado Buffaloes got blown out, and then my Broncos got historically blown out. But
my friend, that was ugly, hard to watch.
Yes, I know. I realize that. At least Tampa Bay lost, so you can't come in, spewing a bunch of shit. But
no, that's true. They got smoked.
I see these guys celebrate everything, every good play they do. Right?
Oh yeah, it's over.
The guy who makes a tackle, a couple of yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he's up, and he's doing all this shit. And I was like, that's what we pay you to do.
Yeah. A perfect example is Jamar Chase in Cincinnati. Every ball he caught last night, because it was a doubleheader on Monday.
Right.
Every ball he caught from Joe Burrows, he'd stand up, he'd flex, he'd point, he'd dance, and I'm like, that's your job.
That's
and
your
by the
job.
way, you already dropped too.
Right. That's like if I finished my logbook entry, right? And I was like, yeah.
Look what I did.
Hey, dude, that's what you're getting paid to do. Knock it off. Right?
I'm okay with a touchdown celebration, but not everything is a touchdown. Not everything needs to be freaking.
No, I know, and not everything needs to be a media moment. So
yeah, agree.
Anyway, so getting back to that was like, well, that's what you're paid to do if you were paid.
Let me introduce you to September 26, 1918.
Oh,
yeah, how about that, huh?
Okay.
After 150 years, the Americans have arrived to repay their debt to France for their aid in the Revolution.
Oh, shit. That's a good point. Yeah.
On this date, General John Pershing, America's Expeditionary Force leader, launches its greatest campaign of World War I in the area of the Meuse River and the Argonne Forest. The result is the bloodiest, longest, and largest battle in American history, one that will only end when the armistice on November 11th is signed.
He went from September 26th to November 11th?
Yep. That's how long that battle lasted. And it kicked off on September 26th.
God bless.
It was never a foregone conclusion that the United States would send ground troops to Europe even after we entered the First World War. Many of the congressmen who voted to declare war on Germany in 1917 did so under the impression that the war would consist of 1, naval warfare against the U-boats in the Atlantic, and 2, material and financial support, not arms and men.
Wow.
President Woodrow Wilson was determined to prove everybody wrong. The commitment of American troops to a European war was a very controversial decision in 1917. But Wilson believed that he needed boots on the ground if he wanted any say in the future peace deal. The idealistic, high-minded, arrogant Wilson believed that the United States had a right and a duty to be involved in the aftermath of the Great War and intended to make sure he could not be denied a seat at the table. American troops would go overseas. So this, the Meuse-Argonne Forest War or battle, was the final push to beat the Germans, and it did in November of the signing of the armistice. So this was a huge battle.
That's pretty cool.
I wanted to give you a few numbers before we move on.
Yeah.
No blueprint existed for mass mobilization or for a major ground war. The Army would expand from 133,000 active duty and 185,000 National Guardsmen to almost 4.7 million men over the course.
Oh, really?
Right? Over the course of 19 months. And this rapid growth would come with growing pains. So I was looking for the loss, and nobody has exact numbers on the loss.
Wow. Wow.
I did have one. The Americans would train and fight on French FT-17 tanks, and with the first training group commanded by who? Captain George S. Patton. So Patton,
No way.
Yeah, I had to bring him into the battle. Yeah.
I thought.
Persian. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I thought it was a cavalry guy, but I guess that would be an easy transition over to the tanks. So.
Yeah, he commanded this group after they learned how to drive those damn things.
Wow. The French tanks, right?
Yeah. So September 26th, the start of the last big battle in World War I.
What was the first French tank? Or what was the first tank?
The FT-17 tank. Oh, you're talking the very first one. Little Willie.
It was your history.
Yeah, Little Willie, man.
Little Willie. Wow.
It's
That's
good
a good one,
we're
man.
fighting.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I mean, that was a hell of a battle, man.
How come we never? Well, I think we did have a Pershing tank at one time. I think, or were they Pershing rifles?
We talked about that military vehicle museum.
Yeah,
they've got a number of tanks. There were more tanks in there that I'd never seen or heard of than I could even find online.
Well, let's see. There had to be something named after Pershing, right?
No, I think there was some kind of fighting vehicle, maybe. Blackjack Pershing.
Blackjack Pershing. See, this is how, we didn't do a lot of research. Our researchers, that was Jake, and he's not
right.
here. So Jake let us down again because he usually does all our research. That's why.
I got a picture of him in World War I, I believe.
Yeah.
Was named after.
Let's just do this. What was named after?
All right. So Pershing's hometown, it was in Missouri, Buckley, Missouri. Before entering the military academy at West Point in 1982. Yeah. Let's see. Pershing was promoted first lieutenant. 1898. He becomes
this terrible podcasting right now.
Streets,
squares, plazas, parks, miscellaneous. Yeah, well. Anyway, well done, Blackjack Pershing.
Oh, rifles. While at Nebraska, Pershing earned a law degree, taught mathematics, and formed a crack drill team that later became the nationally known Pershing Rifles. That's something.
Oh, yeah, Pershing Rifles. RLTC always does it.
Yeah. He also taught fencing. That's pretty cool.
Okay.
Big war, though. Big battle, 1918.
Yeah, very cool, man. Very cool. Okay, thanks, Eric. Now on to the news. We usually try to do news between the services, right? I try. Sometimes it's a little
gotta spread
barren.
the wealth, man.
Yeah, it's a little barren out there. So today it's all Space Force and Air Force, which I know you'd love. That's why I wore my shirt.
Born to Kill Space Force. Right?
Yeah, baby.
I was all about the Born to Kill thing, and you were going to show me a peace sign, and then you did Space Force.
That's going to be on the astronaut helmet. So,
where'd you pick that shirt up?
I don't know. I don't know where I got it. It's one of those grunt style shirts. So.
Oh yeah, okay.
So Sempra Supra and aim high, fly fight, win to all of you listening for today, right?
Yeah.
All right, this first story is kind of cool. It's from the Washington Post. The Space Force looks to accelerate space launches. All right. Now, here's a little background. In 2018, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, better known as DARPA, challenged the space industry to do what it said no one has done before, which is launch satellites to orbit on extremely short notice in an attempt to make rockets fly as frequently as airplanes.
Wow.
So in 2018, they launched that. 2 years later, DARPA pronounced the effort a failure.
Well, now there's a surprise.
I know. Not a single company had been able to meet DARPA's quick turnaround requirements. Another sign of the difficulties of rocketry and just how far it is from becoming the routine service the Pentagon has long wanted it to be. But all that changed a couple weeks ago. So on Thursday, September 15th, an Alpha rocket was launched from Vandenberg Space Force Base by the startup company Firefly Aerospace as part of a responsive space mission called Victus Nox. It's actually a pretty cool name. Translated
Victus
from
Nox.
the Latin, Victus Nox means conquer the night.
I like it. That's cool.
I know, I do. Yeah, they've had a lot of dumb ones, but that one's actually pretty
that's
cool.
not quite as cheesy as some of the past.
Right. Firefly's nearly 100-foot tall Alpha rocket carried a satellite manufactured by Millennium Space Systems, which is a Boeing subsidiary that is designed to track objects in orbit. Firefly Aerospace out of Texas launched 27 hours after receiving launch orders.
Wow.
Space Force called it a new record for responsive space launch. So being able to get spacecraft to orbit quickly is an important capability, Pentagon leaders have said, and something that the Defense Department has been pushing for decades.
Who are the two organizations that had been launching to the low orbit, not pressing into space? You know, they were taking celebrities up.
Well, SpaceX was
there was one other, wasn't there?
Some of those, and I can't remember. God bless. If Jake was here, he'd remember. I can't remember who the other one is.
It's Blue something, right? Wasn't it Blue?
You might be right, but that's that was when they kind of outsourced that shit like 10 years ago or whatever it was.
Right.
So I think it's been kind of hit or miss with those guys, but at least the military is like, well, it's not all our money, not like we lost it before, right? So that's why they kind of pushed it down. But this is a new one, Firefly Aerospace. I've never even heard of these guys. So
nor I. Yeah, that's unusual.
As space increasingly becomes a warfighter domain, rapid response is even more important. Military leaders have said, and the Pentagon is renewing its push to develop rockets and satellites that can be launched into space fast. Well, fast, sort of fast.
Blue Origin, by the way. Blue Origin.
Blue Origin. Yeah, very good. Very good. Launching on short notice would allow the Pentagon to send up a satellite that can investigate adversary spacecraft. I don't know about that one. Especially those getting suspiciously close to U.S. military satellites. Okay, I got that, because there's a lot of, there's the killer satellites that are designed to go up and either explode or they send shrapnel out. Or, I mean, it is kind of cool when you go into some of that research, that the ideas they're thinking of. I mean, they even have sort of like robots that are grab onto the satellite and F it up, right?
I'm amazed because of the space debris that's in that orbit, and sometimes I don't even know how they find these things. It's setting off a signal. Is it
right?
But, we're going to walk up and find it, or
there used to be a really cool website. I don't know
to show you the space junk.
Yeah, have you seen that?
Orbiting, yeah,
it's fantastic. It's fascinating, isn't it?
So crowded up there.
Half of that stuff is all like old Soviet stuff, because they didn't burn it in. They just we'll just leave it up here forever.
Let it float. Yeah, crazy.
Well, and then when China did that, what? Oh God, that had to be, maybe that was 10 years ago, when they blew up like their own satellite, they left all that debris up there. And a BB going at 19,000 miles an hour, well, that can still screw you up.
Much a BB, it's a bullet.
Yeah, it's essentially a bullet. So, and that's also another tactic, right? So they're saying, oh, we don't necessarily need to hit this satellite pinpoint, but we can put up a whole debris field that we know that satellite's going to orbit through.
Right.
Yeah. I think if the balloon goes up on World War III, all those assets are gone, right? At least both ours and China's capabilities right now. It's like we can't maneuver.
You knock that capability down, and now we're back on Earth fighting.
Yeah.
Same thing Russia and Ukraine's doing right now.
Turn GPS off.
Yeah.
Right. I
Yep.
just turn it off now. It'd be like, people driving off cliffs and stuff.
Nowhere.
Like, hey, my maps isn't working. Right.
Because nobody can use a map and compass anymore.
Right.
Not even. Yeah.
Here's a sneaky thing. Here's some trivia for you. You know what the most important thing that GPS provides right now?
Let me get a clue.
Timing. Because like if banks, to give you an example, if banks are off on their timing, a lot of transactions won't go through.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Because they basically keep that universal clock and they bounce it all the way through the constellations.
Well,
so
then it goes all the way.
Everybody around the world, right, has the right time on their phone, banking every other transaction that requires a time sync.
That makes sense because, like I said, infrastructure, lights, night, day,
right,
controlling all that. Woo.
So, in the first phase of the program, the Space Force gave Millennium, who made the satellite, 60 hours to transport the satellite to the launch site, fuel it, and prepare it to be mated to the rocket. 60 hours, man. That's not much.
That's nothing.
Then Firefly had 24 hours to update the rocket's trajectory and guidance software and prepare the rocket to launch the satellite. As it turned out, the launch window required to put the satellite in the correct orbit came at 27 hours, but the company was ready to go at 24. So
that's amazing.
That beat the previous responsive launch record of 21 days, which happened in 2021. So
I remember as a member of the Air Force Space Command IG team, we were responsible for going out to Vandenberg during operational readiness inspections. And if they had a launch, we got to evaluate that. Well, I remember, I don't know, probably 2 and 3 years. Each time there was a rocket on the pad, and it was supposed to go, and it wouldn't go. Something mechanical, something whatever broke down every time we were supposed to see it on. I think I seen one my entire 4 years I was with the IG come out of Vandenberg.
Well, and if you're on the ground watching a launch in Vandenberg, early morning launch?
Nope, this was an afternoon because where I went, I was on the beach. We went over to right outside of Patrick to watch it.
Bells, not Bells. There's you were outside of Patrick.
On the beach to see it. Now we had already been to the pad. I actually got to tour one of the ships, Discovery. I got pictures of me sticking my head into the cockpit of that thing.
Really?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, it was funny. Anybody who knows who's gone out there to watch an early morning launch at Vandenberg, you see it for about 5 seconds and then it goes into the clouds.
Yeah,
because it's always cloudy.
That ocean haze coming in.
And I remember my first one when I first went out there. I was like, "Oh wow, see a rocket launch in person," and it launches, and you're like, "Oh,
it's gone. You can't see nothing." Isn't that amazing too? Because you remember back in the '60s when we launched those, and the damn thing looked like you could see it for miles on TV.
Well, sure. Well, the shuttle used to be
still going.
Yeah, the shuttle used to be that way, right? Because they would launch out of Florida. Central coast of California, in the morning, it's always socked. It's always socked in, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's cool. That's a big thing. And I remember, did you ever see the movie The Martian?
Oh yeah, with
Matt Damon, right?
And it gets stranded on Mars and shit.
Right. But they tried to hurry and launch that resupply rocket.
That's a good example.
And the supplies they had on there. Well, he asked that question in the movie. He was like, "All right, how long does it take you to inspect this rocket?" And he was like, 21 days. He's like, "How long?
Yeah.
Can we?
48 hours.
How much can we cut off of that and it still be okay?" Right. So, obviously, it was a much more complicated mission than a resupply mission. There's a lot more unknown than there is for a mated satellite where the dimensions, the weight, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool from the weeks and weeks and weeks of checks and double checks and all that other stuff. So
And failures, multiple failures.
and
Constantly.
failures. And
Yeah.
and maybe it's because they use these civilian companies that the government is more willing to take risks,
Sure.
because how long was it after Columbia? Was it Columbia that blew up?
Yeah, I think it was Columbia.
Well, there's two of them, right? Columbia and what's
So you're about the one in 85 or
yeah,
was it
what's
87?
yeah, Challenger.
Challenger. Right? Yes.
I mean, it took us a year or something like that to figure that one out. So, but that's
well, like anything, that was the whole. We're going to shut the program completely down until we figure out what we did
right,
wrong.
right.
Yeah.
And that's the typical government response. So maybe the civilians can do it better. Probably can do it better.
Oh, I think so. You've got the big brains out there, your PhDs. I mean, my company alone, I mean, it's designed to take on the government's biggest problems and provide answers and solutions.
Oh, really? Yeah. And you don't have all that bureaucracy and red tape to go through.
That's right. Yes, sir. We'll get you an answer.
Right. It's like, no, this is it. I was like, well, wait a minute. We got 15 other guys in the room who have different agendas who don't want to release that answer yet.
Right.
And that's why it takes forever. So anyway, Space Force is at least advancing some of that stuff about response time into space.
Well, as I said, it's good that they are doing something because I wasn't sure what they were doing. I just didn't know.
We're born to kill, Eric.
Yes, you're born to kill. With your Star Trek rank and uniform, it makes my head hurt.
What do you mean me? I was out before Space Force.
You are an alumni, as I recall. So I have you to blame. You are an alumni.
Legacy Guardian. Thank you very much.
Alumni.
I'm a legacy guardian. All right,
sounds cooler than what it is.
I know it does. I know it does. I hate calling them guardians, but I hate it less than I did a couple of years ago when I first heard it.
Okay,
and there was a story. I almost did it. That I guess those dress uniforms for Space Force with the slanted buttons. I guess that's not all out to the force yet. They're still fit testing it,
and so they should, because some of that shit is so ridiculous. True.
They should have just come up with some kind of dress, like flight suit thing.
Yeah. Now I will give them what we talked about last week with Jake, and we talked about how fast the service came to be. So there's still a lot to develop. I get that. So I guess I should back off a little bit. But
it's the way they're going about it. And I mean, and I know they're rushing it, but what's the rush? Take your time. All right.
Right.
I mean, even though they transferred all those kind of operators and stuff over to Space Force, all the support functions still come from the Air Force.
That's true.
So you go to, personnel, that's Air Force personnel managing Space Force people.
Yeah. Doing the same thing Space Force or Air Force did.
Correct.
Or does.
Right.
All right.
So they'll get there. Maybe.
We'll be gone. I'm good.
We'll still be covering them here. So, all right, let's get to some Air Force news.
Right on.
This was really cool. Now, maybe a little complicated, but I tried to dumb it down as much as I could.
For me or the audience?
For Jake, because Jake never reads any of these things. So but this is from sandbox.us. So America's new approach to warfare or air warfare. So now this is nothing official. This is what they're proposing. Let me get this.
This isn't taking place yet. This is a proposal.
No, this is where they want to go. So it's almost like an opinion piece, but it's kind of these are what people are thinking of up at the top of the Air Force. So it's pretty interesting. In a not too distant future, the face of American air power will dramatically shift away from a relatively few highly capable and crewed platforms and toward an overwhelming avalanche of unmanned systems ranging from single-use munitions all the way to multi-million-dollar multi-role unmanned combat aerial vehicles, or UCAVs. Right.
Okay.
So I think basically
That's cool.
to sum that up a little bit, I think the last 30, 40 years, what we've relied on is let's put all the tech into an F-15E, and it's going to be able to shoot,
Everything
5
else
MiGs
down.
before it ever gets threatened, right? So, and I think we went the tech route, which is interesting. Isn't it fascinating, though?
Well, I think that's obvious from all the articles we've done on tech lately.
Right.
I mean, that certainly makes sense.
But if you go back to World War II, we were nowhere near the cutting edge of tech.
Oh, no.
But
Germany was.
because Germany was, right?
Yeah.
But because we had supply side that no other country could match, we pushed, 10 Shermans out for every one Panzer.
Yeah, Panzer. Yeah, for sure.
That kind of thing, right? We pushed 10 Corsairs out for every one Japanese Zero, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So we kind of overwhelmed them with supply.
Production.
And then we went tech, and we're like, okay, this F-15E is going to be able to shoot down, 10 MiGs before it even gets touched. And for a while there, it was true. So,
going into Vietnam initially, it was.
Right. But this article has a couple good quotes in it that will counter that notion. And you know what? I'm kind of on board with it a little bit. So, with new initiatives underway within the Pentagon to rapidly field thousands of drones, the United States is now looking to return to the World War II methodology of peace through superior numbers.
How about that?
Well, I mean, look, China's not producing cutting edge stuff, right?
Numbers.
We don't go, oh, that Chinese fighter is the best fighter.
Just numbers.
We go, oh, those 100 Chinese fighters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. It's just a big number.
Yeah, it's a big number. It's basically the old Soviet technique.
Yeah.
That's how the Soviets beat back the Nazis coming in.
Because
they can make that, what was it, a T-30? I think it was like a T-30 tank, something like that.
I'm only familiar with that.
Wrong.
T-64?
No, it wasn't that high. Not in World War II. They were throwing those tanks out because they were easy to make, they were cheap, and the Nazis were running out. And they're like, well, we can't. They keep coming at us with 100, and we're down to 10, right? Anyway, back to the article. It says, in order to do so, American defense officials are aiming to push the boundaries of what we've commonly seen as science fiction, turning over vast portions of the warfighting enterprise to rapidly advancing and often AI-enabled robots.
Oh, there we go.
So I think we talked about that a couple of months ago, about them like making AI-powered wingmen.
Yeah.
Right? So guys would launch up an F-22 and he's got robots on both sides.
Protecting his side, yeah.
Yeah. Earlier this month, Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks announced the Pentagon's Replicator Initiative. That sounds badass, doesn't it?
Finally, a name that sounds just as cool as the other one. Yeah, that's cool
Victus
shit.
Knox. This is the Replicator Initiative, which aims to field, but this is just listen to this and you'll be like, bullshit. You just start saying that in your head, right? So Replicator Initiative, which aims to field multiple thousands of low-cost drones operating in air, land, and sea within the next 2 years. But remarkably, without requesting any additional funding.
Bullshit.
Right? Instead of seeing this as a new program, Replicator might be better thought of as a new philosophy, steering the priorities of new acquisition efforts toward what the U.S. Air Force has long called affordable mass.
Have you heard it ever called affordable mass?
I've never heard that called. I've never heard this.
Me neither.
That must be think tank people up there.
It has to be. I've never heard something called affordable mass.
Despite America's massive defense expenditures, the number of warships, fighter planes, and similar platforms in the U.S. arsenal has been steadily decreasing for decades now. This has come in large part thanks to rapid advances in a variety of technologies that allow fewer platforms to fill multiple roles. So they gave an example of like the Prowler, You know that EA-6 something Prowler that the
Yep.
Navy
Mhm.
uses?
Marines
They
do too.
have that now mounted on basically an FA-18.
Oh, okay.
So somehow it's going up. It's not an F-18, but it's like the same chassis or whatever it is.
Right.
That's going up. So they're using it for multiple roles. America's multi-role approach to air warfare has allowed it to focus on fielding some of the most advanced and broadly capable tactical aircraft ever to take to the skies, each equipped to fly a multitude of missions depending on operational requirements. There's no denying this has been an extremely cost-effective approach to power projection throughout the asymmetric conflicts of recent decades, but in a high-end fight, it creates problems. No matter how multi-role your aircraft is, it can still only be in one place at one time.
Yeah.
Right? No shit. And with fewer platforms than ever, losing a single modern fighter represents a much more significant loss than in past eras. Yeah.
Cost.
Yeah.
Huge.
You load all that shit into one plane, and that plane goes down, like that F-35 that just went down.
Yeah.
Well,
and now
shit.
your bad guys have a potential of getting all your secrets.
Well,
to mitigate all that shit. Yeah.
But if you're only building a handful of F-35s and one of them goes down, you are a significant loss.
Oh, no doubt.
Right. So here's also part of the problem. Get this. Building a single F-35 requires a jaw-dropping 60,000 combined man-hours.
Wow.
60,000. Conversely, it was reported during World War II that an F-4U Corsair could be built in 12,000 man-hours. All right. Yeah, but it had, I mean, in all fairness, it didn't have all the electronics. It didn't have all the other shit.
Right. Yeah.
By the end of World War II, the United States was operating nearly this is fascinating. By the end of World War II, the United States was operating nearly 300,000 military aircraft of all sorts. That number has dwindled to fewer than 14,000.
Wow. 300,000 to 14.
Wow.
We're
ready. We're ready, China. We're going to do with our 14,000 planes.
Yeah, and I think we just told you. Oh, we're short. We only got 14,000.
Yeah, we gave a bunch to Ukraine too, so maybe that's down to 13,500.
Can we have our F-16s back, please?
Yeah, no kidding. God, remember that a year ago when they're like F-16s?
No way.
No way, we're not doing that.
Yep.
And now we're like, here you go. We'll train you up in a couple of weeks. I read across that article. They're like, we're starting to train Ukrainians to fly F-16. How fast can that be?
Well,
How fast is it to learn to fly an F-16?
Well, I mean, there's got to be comparable airframes.
Where?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
It's not like Ukraine's been flying. I think they've either all been shot down and they wouldn't be hand out going, hey, you guys got some F-16s we could borrow? You know, like,
what was the guy flying that did get shot down? So some super pilot they said that was over there.
That was a myth.
Oh, I thought there was an actual guy that got shot down. That did have some kills.
What was his name? Like Juice or something like that? Yeah, it was just
he
recently.
Had some kills. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just recently. I don't know what he was flying.
Had to be some kind of MiG, I'm sure.
I'm sure you could look it up, but yeah, that guy just got shot down a few weeks ago or something like that. Not the who was it at the beginning? The Ghost of Ukraine or whatever.
Right.
That
was the big deal.
That was the myth, right? I think the guy's name is Juice or something like that. So
well, we'll have to research that one.
Jake, look that up. Oh, that's right.
Jake's not here.
Jake flaked on us. Flake wall. That's what I'm going to call him.
Flake wall.
Plus, he doesn't listen to it anyway, so he won't know I'm calling him all these names. So. The solution the Pentagon has assessed is combining even more modern and advanced platforms with a large volume of cheaper, more specialized drones that can be lost and replaced without overwhelming American budgets or production infrastructure. The Air Force has been using the word attritable to describe platforms that are inexpensive enough to accept high levels of risk in combat. Attritable. That's
another word that I never heard the Air Force use very often.
No, that must be these guys are like, we'll throw in a bunch of those attritable planes. Does that mean
we use that frequently?
Does that mean you're losing them? It's like, yeah, we attrit them. So, Give you an example. This concept is embodied by platforms like the Kratos XQ-58A Valkyrie, which is a low-cost and low-absorbable UCAV that's capable of carrying a 600-pound payload while flying at high subsonic speeds at altitudes as high as 45,000 feet and at ranges as far as 3,000 nautical miles.
That's a badass. That's a badass UCAV.
That Valkyrie costs only slightly more than a single AGM-88G anti-radiation missile.
Wow.
Yeah. So it costs like $6.5 million, which is still a lot.
Now,
right?
that's not a one-time launch. It's not part of the missile. It can come home.
Yes, it can come home.
Okay.
It can land, right?
Right.
Unlike that F-35 that didn't.
It apparently can't land.
Right.
Oh.
So while much of the Defense Department's focus is now on low-cost and reusable combat platforms, other efforts are focused on developing new methods of deploying existing munitions to reduce costs. So that's part of that whole repurposing the A-10, repurposing all these other planes, right?
Yeah.
And by effect, of course, I would once again mean volume. So they want volume. Well, this leads us into this other story from a website. Every once in a while they have some good stories on there, but a lot of it's just history stuff. It's called wearethemighty.com. So, and
before you go into that, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
I wonder if it's a probability of repurposing all the airframes that are sitting out in Arizona in airplane grade.
In the graveyard?
Yeah. I mean, think of the frames that you could resuit pretty easy, I would think. Well, the frames are attached. All the avionics and stuff have been pulled out, but you got frames.
Yeah, you got homeless people camped in them, so you can't kick them out, so you can't use them.
I was just wondering. I mean, that makes sense when we talk about mass and bringing in more and more.
Sure, I agree.
That way, you're not recreating a wheel. You've already got a pretty sustainable.
I don't understand when they're just like, "Yep, we're finally going to retire the A-10, or we're finally going to retire the B-52." It's like, why?
It's done.
You already got it. Just keep that son of a bitch flying.
Upgrade its avionics, its engine. Yeah,
and they'll be like, "Oh, it's not cost effective to keep it flying." And I was like, "So we're just going to dump another 200 billion developing something else,
something new?"
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably why the F-16s hung around. That's probably why the C-130 is still around.
Yeah,
right? That's definitely why the B-52 is still around.
Yeah, that thing's been a workforce too.
Yeah, I mean, and even on a smaller scale, did we really need to replace the M16 or A4 with the new Sig Sauer?
No.
Why? Does that increase our lethality? Or is that the military-industrial complex going, it's time for a new weapon? It's like, hey, we're broke. Inflation's up. And they're like, it's time for a new weapon.
Because the weapon systems worked perfectly for years and years and years.
They worked fine, right?
Yeah.
But we need something new, apparently. Anyway, so let's talk about this article, We Are the Mighty. This is also part of their plan, too, right? Going forward. So this is also part of Air Strategy. The headline is the insane plan to turn C-130s into glass cannons. I'm not sure why they said glass cannons, because that was nowhere mentioned in the article, but
sounds cool.
I know. Here's what they're doing. Give you a little background. America's C-130 aircraft originally rolled out as a quick stopgap cargo plane during the Korean War. I didn't know that. Korean.
That's when it started?
Yeah.
Because I thought they were still using like C-47s and...
that could have been, old World War II stuff, right?
Right.
The Rush design of the C-130 has now served 70 years already. It's like, good design.
Why replace something that works good?
The Air Force keeps finding new ways to use it, from firefighting to flying radio stations to now a mega-capable platform for launching missiles. The Rapid Dragon concept, which is another good name. That's our third good name in this one broadcast. That's great. Rapid Dragon allows C-130s to carry 6 advanced missiles, basically cruise missiles. the Air Force will almost certainly move forward with Rapid Dragon. It has passed all combat tests with flying colors, and the capability gives America and its allies is game changing. Game changing.
That's the word used.
It should be
before.
war
Game
changing. It should be war ending. That's what we want. Yeah, we're not calling it a game, baby. It allows any medium to large cargo aircraft to become a super effective cruise missile platform. Any crew trained in airdrops can, in theory, use the aircraft, and so the American fleet of strike-capable aircraft would suddenly surge by 250 aircraft. Okay, that's a dumb thing to say, because you're not going to take every C-130 and C-17 and turn it into a cruise missile drop.
Yeah.
But what they're saying is they kind of load them on like 6-packs in racks, and they can push them on, and then they air shoot them, and it pulls them out the back. I'll show you a video here in a second. It's really, really
It's cool. Almost like that engine runoff when you pull the pallet right out of the plane.
Right. It's like air deployed.
Yeah.
So the Air Force testing has been done with the joint. I hate this acronym, or this acronym. The Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile Extended Range Cruise Missile, or the JASM. What does that sound like to you?
I'm not going to say.
It sounds like jism.
You said it. I wasn't going to say it. No.
The AGM-158B JASM extended range can deliver a 1,000-pound warhead up to 575 miles away, while the longer range 158B2 has a warhead weighing 2,000 pounds with a range of 1,200 miles.
That's pretty amazing.
That's pretty badass, right?
Why couldn't we call that freaking the Red Dragon or the Rapid Dragon?
It's the JASM, baby.
Not the JASM.
Okay, watch this for a couple minutes.
It might seem counterintuitive to fly massive radar-reflecting platforms like the C-130 Hercules or the C-17 Globemaster anywhere near contested airspace just to deploy munitions. But the premise behind Rapid Dragon isn't really to send these hulking airframes into harm's way. Instead, the effort leverages palletized standoff weapons. Weapons like the AGM-158 Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile, or JASM, with ranges that can exceed 1,000 miles. This will allow cargo aircraft to deploy ordnance from well beyond the reach of enemy air defenses. And according to the Air Force, it would allow them to saturate that airspace with a large volume of low observable cruise missiles for a relatively low cost and a pretty low risk. But the real value in Rapid Dragon may not be just inundating enemy airspace with weapons and drones, it may be hunting ships. The name Rapid Dragon is actually an homage to an ancient Chinese siege weapon that saw use around 950 AD called the Jilong Shu. I apologize if I pronounced that wrong, but it roughly translates to Rapid Dragon carts. These weapons were effectively crossbow catapults that allowed a single user to pull one trigger to launch as many as 12 arrows all at once. And to quote the Air Force Research Laboratory, like its namesake, these palletized munitions promise to unleash mighty salvos in mass on distant adversaries. Now, if you've done any reading about Rapid Dragon, you already know that.
Look at that.
But what I find sort of ironic is that the Rapid Dragon weapon system may prove most valuable in a conflict against the nation from which it draws its very name. A fight with China would inevitably be a fight in the Pacific. And thanks to low observable long-range munitions like the JASM family of cruise missiles, cargo aircraft could saturate enemy airspace.
How do you hide from that?
Fleets of enemy ships.
That's pretty badass. Using a cargo plane. Right?
And those are smart munitions, right? That can be guided.
Yeah, absolutely.
Air defense
absolutely.
The underlying concept behind using America's existing commercial and
500 miles away, 1,000 miles, or 1,200 miles away for the advanced missile.
But it saw a lot of interest
and you
in
would
the
think
1970s in particular.
that C-17 would have some type of fighter escort, I bet. You know, if it's undisputed space where the space is, you know, you could have bad guys coming, I bet they're going to throw some fighters with it.
Well, but those fighters got to go a long way, right?
Well, that's true. They
So
don't have
if you're saying, let's say, you know, we're in the South China Sea, there's got to be some kind of acceptable buffer, right?
Or mid-air refueling.
If these things are launching from, even with the base missile 500 miles away, that's a lot of fuel for that jet to get there.
It is. Yeah.
But yeah, I would imagine they'd have some kind of potential escort to it.
Yeah, you'd have to, you'd think.
But I mean, how much are you going to send fighters after supply planes? Because you don't know what they are until they release.
Right.
Right. You're
Unless
like,
it's a planned mission with fighter escort.
Right. It's like, oh, let's send this squadron 500 miles away where they're going to run out of fuel to attack this plane that may be carrying MREs. Yeah, so it's a pretty good deception.
Good call.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Are we carrying MREs? Or are we carrying 27 cruise missiles?
About to bust your ass.
Holy shit. That's right. Right.
That's way cool, man. That's very good. I didn't even think about the fact that they're not going to know what the hell it is. It's just a cargo
They won't
plane.
know, right? It's just a plane flying out there. So, and they can't expend assets to go after every cargo plane.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Rapid Dragon.
Rapid Dragon.
I like it.
You got to say it angry. Rapid Dragon.
Launch Rapid Dragon. I like it, man.
So look at all these tech advances in space and the Air Force, right? Those are pretty cool stories we've already had.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, that's the kind of shit that makes you like, oh yeah, I'm glad I'm American. Look at this shit.
Right. I don't want to get on the other end receiving end of this thing.
No
man.
kidding, man. You got 27 cruise missiles coming at you. There you go. But then an article like the next one comes out. Like this next one comes.
Say it isn't so.
That brings you back to Earth. So from airandSpaceForces.com.
Oh boy.
The Air Force is revamping Zero Week at basic training to better prepare recruits for stress. I said Air Force, not Space Force, so we can both be disappointed in it.
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea is to break a person down to make him capable of being part of a team.
Correct.
And build him up to something more important than himself.
That's correct. But we don't want to scare these fragile deer away. So we got to coax them in. Come on.
Fragile deer. We won't yell at you.
Shh, come on. Just come on.
You've got like, what, candy? Here's a peppermint. Come on. It's a peppermint.
Here's a recruiting ribbon. Come on. Come on.
I met my quota. I brought in 4 new recruits. Oh, crazy.
All right. So when Air Force and Space Force recruits arrived at Joint Base San Antonio, Lackland, Texas this week for the first 5 days of basic military training, it will be different compared to what previous generations went through. The 37th Training Wing is changing those first 5 days known as Zero Week to educate trainees on human performance factors such as sleep hygiene. I don't even know what sleep hygiene is.
What?
Stress management and nutrition, alongside the classic features like basic drill, physical training, and keeping the recruit living area tidy. Officials hope the redesign will better prepare enlisted airmen and guardians for the rigors of life in service. Sleep hygiene, Eric. Did you ever get trained on sleep hygiene?
No. It was called lack of sleep.
It's like, don't scratch in your sleep. I think that was what it was for sleep hygiene.
You know, by the way, sleep under your bunk so you don't mess the bed up. For Christ's sake.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Right, right. Because that takes so goddamn long to make it right.
Fix it, yes.
Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Cassidy, Director of Human Performance for the 37th Training Wing, said, quote, resilience results from combining problem-solving skills with the lifestyle habits that power them. So previously, these problem-solving skills were distributed across the 7.5 weeks of basic or BMT.
Right.
But the new Zero Week is designed to front load them so that trainees have a stronger foundation of stress resilience to build on. Okay.
I don't understand that. So you're going to get off the bus. They're going to line you up nicely. They're going to march you into a classroom
Politely.
and say, ladies and gentlemen, we want to educate you on what the next 7 weeks are going to look like.
That's right.
And we don't want you to feel stressed about it because we're preparing you now to be able to accept us screaming and hollering at you and breaking you down.
No screaming and hollering.
Oh, that's right. I have to talk calmly to you. I don't
I
understand
have to
it.
talk calmly to your dumbass.
So does the rigors of an actual combat environment where people will not talk nice to you, who are trying to actually kill you, we're not going to face that
but they're
at all.
trying to do it politely. So, the days of your war face, those days are gone. Right.
Show me your war face.
Let's have your negotiating face. Right. Or maybe
This scares me even more. Doesn't you?
Yes, of course it does.
Someone that can't even
Because
deal with the
they're
rigors and
convinced.
stress of basic training, can't go to war, and certainly comprehend the kind of stress and rigors of violence that they're going to face.
Yes, I agree.
They took that whole equation out.
I hate that they're doing this, that the brain trust up there is like, well, we're below recruiting numbers because we're too hard on them during 0 week.
Yeah.
Where are you getting your stats from? There's not like these massive dropouts during 0 week.
No, it's 3 or 4 weeks after.
There might be less people joining the military because it's so soft now.
I bet they haven't even looked at that side of it. Why would I go? I can.
Yeah, why would I go? They're just a bunch of wimps there, right? And I got to watch what I say, or I might get court-martialed.
Right.
I can't call this guy that or anything like that. It's like,
I don't understand. The whole idea behind joining the military is to prepare you
I know,
for possible defense of your country, which
of
means
your country. That
conflict.
could cost you your life.
Conflict. So
Right.
a little bit of stress in your life. By the way, it's not even personal stress. We're just yelling to be yelling.
I would think you would want, if your life is on the line,
Yes.
you should know the importance of whatever it is you're getting learned or trained or whatever.
Absolutely.
Because it could cost you or somebody next to you your life.
Absolutely. And they've removed that whole equation from the question.
And the idea of, well, we're low on recruiting. You got to be nicer. And it's like, no, you're missing the point. Anyway, let me finish this thing.
All right. I'm sorry.
New 0 week. The new 0 week should help better prepare trainees for physical training as well. A beta test last December. Now get ready with your bullshit comment. A beta test last December found a noticeable decrease in injuries. Okay, I'm with that. And a noticeable increase in PT pass rates, said Colonel Lauren Corkane, commander of the 37th Training Wing. Though exact numbers were not immediately available,
yeah,
she estimated it brought the number of PT failures for the test squadron from the low double digits down to 0. Bullshit.
Total.
Unless they're just like, okay, we won't count that one. You come back tomorrow, we'll try again.
How does one relate or transfer to the other is what I'd like to know.
Yeah,
we're talking the first 0 week. We make you feel better about being able to run and do a PT
and
test?
I had no PT failures. Look at that.
Yeah, this is
I don't buy that.
This is very strange.
Right.
Very strange.
Though there could be stressful events throughout the new BMT, the 37th wants to de-stress the first week, partly by shouting less at trainees as they pick up the basics of drill PT and keeping their living areas clean. Instructors will still be able to raise their voice if they need to.
Unbelievable.
But the 37th is trying to build up recruits more gradually. Now hold on. Other services are on a similar track. In 2022, the Army stopped greeting infantry recruits with a quote unquote shark attack of unintelligible screaming and replaced it with a tough physical exercise meant to instill trust in drill sergeants rather than fear. They didn't describe what it was.
No.
Right? But I guess it's not step off the bus, get your toes on the yellow line anymore. I guess there's like, if you guys feel like it, when you wake up, could you come off the bus? And then there's a yellow line, but that's just a suggestion.
Please, just feel free to stand there.
Maybe just put one of your feet on the yellow line. That's all we ask. We don't need both feet.
I don't know, man.
All right. Now listen to the senior enlisted leader for Lackland 737 Training Group, Chief Master Sergeant Daniel Anderson.
Tell me, Chief.
We want the instructors to be able to push them to a point where there's an elevated state of awareness so that they are receiving the information. And if they do not conform with the expectation, then the military training instructors will absolutely hold them accountable, to include raising their voices and speaking with them in command voice. But Chief Anderson pushed back on the notion that new recruits require different training because they are less mentally tough than their forebears.
I disagree.
Chief said, I would not say that the generation that we're receiving into our ranks now is not as tough, whether mentally or physically or whatever. I would argue that they are different. They didn't grow up outside throwing rocks at the neighbor kids.
Come on.
They are digital natives. They think differently. They respond to stressors differently, and their approach to be able to effectively train them must be different, because it will be something different that is expected from them during their time of service. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. He said different 4 times in that 2 sentences.
Because he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about either.
Oh, he's a chief.
Let me ask you something. How do you envision future levels of post-traumatic stress disorder rising as high as they're going to be? Because every one of these kids,
that's a good point,
can't handle 0 week. And oh my God, the first minute of adversity is going to transfer to anxiety and stress. Boom.
I have never had a bullet shot at me. You have. Was that a sobering thing or what?
Absolutely.
I mean, my God, right?
Totally sobering.
I mean, holy cow. And what are these guys going to be? I was like, oh, that sounds like Medal of Honor or one of my video games. And they're like, get down, you idiot.
Right. Or it transitions to immediate. I can't handle.
Oh, yeah. Right.
My role. I can't do this.
They'll be like, I can't with this combat stuff. I can't. Right.
I want to go home. Send me home now. I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I brought that up earlier. It's like, I bet even before that point, you're going to get an inordinate number of conscientious objectors.
Agreed.
Right. And they're going to be like, I don't believe in war.
No, I'm not going to go.
So
there are a lot of, and we've spoken about it, especially on the recruitment side of it and retention. But man, if there is a future conflict, and of course there's going to be, right? It's in our
right.
blood, it's in our DNA.
Well, it's in the military-industrial complex that will guarantee us a future conflict.
Sure.
Right?
I am very scared of what we're going to present to defend this country.
I think, and I don't want to sell them short. I agree with you, but I think the majority of people who are joining still have the same virtues that we do. Right?
Man, I hope so. Yeah,
now they might get the problem is they might get too frustrated with the soft nature of the military and might not last past their first enlistment.
Yeah,
that's what I really see seeing, because there'll be guys who are they're patriots. They want to do their part. They're going to come in and they're going to go, this was too hard. I've got to watch what I say. I've got to be, I can't yell at anybody.
Yeah.
I can't get mad. I can't, I've been brought up on sexual charges.
Yeah.
Right. And they were like, this is for the birds. I'm not, first time I'm out.
I can see that, especially on the gung-ho guy side that still have, or gals, who go, I am here to defend the country. You guys won't allow me.
Right.
You're tying my
Right.
hands. It
Right.
literally sounds like we're tying our hands already.
Great point. Yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely. And that's what they're going to get. That's what they're going to get frustrated with. There's going to be a handful that go, why do I want to go in the Army where, the policies are not, one, I'm not in line with, morally.
Yeah.
And two, I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Who wants to get court-martialed and get a dishonorable?
Yeah.
The free house, right, is not worth that. The education is not worth that. Or you're going to say, I mean, how many stories? I've seen more stories since we've been doing this podcast about, oh, yeah, this caused cancer. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, yeah, this water had fuel in it. Sorry about that. Your barracks had
the white foam, mold.
Right? VA, there are VA patients dying because they can't get an appointment.
Yeah.
Why would I want to join this organization?
It's terrible. God, it really, it's disheartening.
Yeah, it is
on this level. It really is.
I agree. Well, let's get to our last story because this will make you
worse.
This will make it worse, right?
I you know what? I want to come back. I want to do a refire on this 0 week. A couple months down the road.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be nice to hear how it went.
See how the performance is going. I'd really like to know.
That's a good point. So we'll follow up on the tactical bra, and we'll follow up on the 0 week.
0 week. Yeah.
All right. So top it off, our last story. Last story comes from Buckley Space Force Base. Right. It's a policy guidance that was just released. You know what the subject is? It's the idling policy for government vehicles. I have spent a significant amount of my military career sitting in vehicles idling. Right? I have. I mean, I don't know if you have, but I have, right?
We sit in cop cars and freaking idle just to stay warm.
I'll tell you, I mean, that Humvee diesel engine would idle forever.
Ever. Yes.
Especially when it was cold. Holy shit, right? God. All right, so let me read you this thing because you'll get a kick out of it. Well, you won't get a kick out of it, but we'll get a kick out of it together. Paragraph 1, the Air Force continues to make efforts to reduce its impact on the environment.
Oh, boy.
This has forced us to examine common practices that may impede the effort to reduce our carbon footprint within our local community. Prolonged idling of vehicles increases harmful chemical emissions into the ozone and contributes to the risk of health problems associated with toxic air pollutants. Now, listen to this next sentence. Get your bullshit ready. Idling one vehicle for 5 minutes a day can emit 260 pounds of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere a year. That's saying you're going to idle the vehicle 5 minutes a day for 365 days.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Bullshit. Therefore, all personnel will adhere to the following idling policy while operating a government vehicle, whether on or off Buckley Space Force Base. 2A, the ambient outside air temperature has been less than 32 degrees Fahrenheit for each hour of the previous 24-hour period. So what time, let's say it's 4 in the afternoon. It's 32 degrees now, right? You have to go back 24 hours and make sure every hour was less than 32 degrees. How are you going to enforce that?
My silence is because I have no response to this. I am totally lost for words.
Oh, hold on. Let me get through the other requirements. The latest hourly ambient outside air temperature is less than 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cold.
That's very cold.
Right? But it has to be that cold for the last hour. The wind chill index and flag colors are yellow and red. Have you ever seen a wind chill yellow and red flag? I've only seen that for heat. I've never
Exactly.
seen that for
I've
wind
never
chill.
seen it for wind chill.
But maybe they have it in Alaska. Maybe they have it in Thule. So I don't want to say it's not. But maybe they do. I've never heard of it. Or the heat category flag color is red or black. So I guess you can't idle it to run the air conditioner either. I
don't know what to say, man.
I don't either. Furthermore, diesel engines should not be exposed to prolonged idling due to possible engine and emission control device damage. Engine or system damage caused by excessive idling will be considered vehicle abuse, and using organizations can be held liable for engine repair and or replacement. So you're going to get a report of survey like you damaged that engine. Now you owe us for that engine.
Yeah, we're going to take it from your money.
So let's take that guy who just went through the Revamp Zero week with no yelling. Sit him in that vehicle. He idled it for too long, and now he's got a $3,500 engine he's got to pay for.
Oh, yeah, he's going to stay around, isn't he?
You think he's going to react to that news well?
No. No, he's not.
My God.
You know what? That it almost says instead of getting them fueled vehicles, go all electric for the military.
Oh God, that's going to be awful.
You see what I'm saying now?
Yeah,
because
I
do. This is the whole Green Deal, make it less. But again, I'm lost for words here.
I know.
If you have somebody on the flight line in below freezing weather, and the vehicle is his only escape, but you're not going to let him leave because he has a mission.
Because it hasn't been 32 degrees for 24 hours.
Oh,
I just like to see the guy try to go enforce that, right?
Right.
So you got some E7 knocking on the door, and he's like, "Hey, you know what? It's only been 32 degrees for 8 hours. Shut this vehicle off.
Turn it off." Yeah. Meanwhile, your guy gets frostbite. He's freezing. Right. And then he goes, "Okay, I've got post-traumatic stress from sitting here in the cold. Let me out."
And this guy wouldn't let me get warmed up. Because I'm emitting too much CO2.
There are so many dumb things that we could talk about that come just from this policy.
It sure makes you want to sign up, though, doesn't it?
Oh, come on, man. God, damn. I'm telling you what. Wouldn't it be interesting? I would love to hear it from not just you and I as veterans, or, I'd love to sit down with, 200 and talk about this policy and see the reaction. How many would go, "Oh, we love it. We think it's a great idea."
If we sat down with those guys, they would probably say, "You're the first one who has ever asked us the question if these policies are any good."
Well, that's a good point too.
Because what leadership's going to do that? What chief, what sergeant major is going to go down and go, "Hey, what do you think of these policies?"
Good point. Yeah. I'm lost for words on this one. This one, really...
I know. That's why. Maybe I should have done the reverse order because I pumped you up.
Yes.
Red
Dragon.
And then I drug you back down.
I am definitely lost for words. You know what? I told you about the new security force woman that graduates October 10th.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd love to hear her experience in one of your future interviews with her from basic training in her text.
Did you talk to her?
Yeah, I've talked to her. I've texted her. I wanted to make sure.
You got me interviewing a general because of you, so that's great, man. That'd be awesome.
We definitely. I'd love to hear her experience.
And maybe we don't interview her. Maybe we bring her on the podcast.
Even better. I think.
And let her respond to some of these things. That'd be great.
Now,
man.
I guess we probably have to be careful because she's active duty, right?
Actually, I would rather bring her on a podcast and not react to some of these stories. But let us ask her questions.
Yeah, all right.
And not criticize.
Not get her in.
Yeah, because she made it. Yeah. She did what was required.
Yeah.
But it would be more informative for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway.
I would love to hear her experience in basic.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Tech school.
That'd be fun.
So recent. Yeah.
All right, Eric. Now that I pissed you off, I think we're rounds complete, and I think we better end up.
I'm gonna go steal a Humvee and rattle that thing, man. Cruise it and
well,
idle it forever.
you could go get the German drunk guy. He's a master at stealing Humvees. So you guys could go idle together and drink.
I mean, literally, cops idled their vehicles
I've sat in
routinely.
I sat in 113s. I've sat in 577s. I've sat in Humvees.
Yes.
Hell, even Deuces, Deuce and ass, man. Yeah. Just keep that thing. It's too cold. Keep that thing idling, right?
Yes.
But they're diesel, right? They idle forever. But apparently, I was responsible for global warming, so I apologize.
Aren't you curious as to? Well, we'll never know what the impact is that Buckley Air Force Base alone, Buckley Space Force Base is having alone on that, carbon monoxide and carbon and all that crap. And
you mean what Buckley Air Force Base is putting into the atmosphere compared to the coal plant a day that China's doing over there?
Right.
Or
with
India,
their 20 lanes of vehicles.
Right. They're just like, F it, we're putting out. We got a coal plant, man. And we're doing it.
India's the same way. If you're not going to bring the world into line with this thing, it's never going to work.
I know, but maybe Buckley will offset.
Okay, we did our part. We got one base. Oh, it's disturbing, man.
On behalf of Eric and I'd like to thank you for listening today. Please like, share, subscribe, and let us know how we did in the comments. And as always, make sure to download the next episode for more Service Headline News. I still think we should do that together. Here we go.
Service Headline News.
There you go. Eric, thanks, man. Thanks for the week.
Yes, sir.
Screw you, Jake, and I'll see you next week.
Good stories this week, man. It was hard to deal with the last week. It was tough.
I know. I hope Jake stews in his own, not being here to make some comment against it. So.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd enjoy this.
And just between you and me, I'm always against those comments because I'm a big supporter of it.
Oh, it's all good. I have such thick skin. Not a problem.
You are a cop.
That's right. I have faced a lot more.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
You got it, buddy. Have a good one.